President Macron of France made an announcement just recently saying, in schools, we are going to start rebuilding society. Uniforms, teaching basics, teaching the National Anthem, showing respect for teachers. He brought that in as a national policy. Do we need that in Canada? Before we get the answer on that, please subscribe and PayPal so that guy behind there can get paid. Stephen Lecce is the Minister of Education in Ontario, and I put the question to you. Do we need to do more in schools to not only build the basics, you've covered that, you're bringing back basics, but to bring back culture and society and Canadian values?
I do believe so. I think this is perhaps the most existential challenge facing governments at all levels, is how do we maintain our democratic character, how do we maintain social cohesion, and how do we bind ourselves, because we come from different parts of the world other than the indigenous people who are here. The rest of us were immigrants. And so how do we make these diasporas, integrate them with common values? And I believe what is missing, not just the strength of our national identity, but the necessity for young people to be educated and to cherish foundational, fundamental Canadian values: freedom, democracy, human rights, the rule of law. This is being lost, and there's a reason why we brought forth a overhauled civics curriculum. It's why we introduced Holocaust education and Holodomor education to teach young people about the perils of extremism, of ideological extremism, be it fascism or communism or Marxism. These are threats to our country. And I believe strongly that civics, which was a course for many generations,
yes,
which was also called the Bird course, where it wasn't, you showed up, you got an 80%. We need to, and we have in our province, reimagined what is possible through civic engagement by making sure young people understand their rights, but also their responsibilities to this country, with a sense of forward obligation to want to make this country better than we inherited it. And I think that responsibility falls in part to our education system to better emancipate fundamental Canadian values.
It'll come as no surprise to you, since we're both been in politics for years and years. Civics was one of my best classes, and I liked it the most.
Me too.
But do you have teachers saying, we don't know anything about that? Do you have to reteach the teachers?
I think in part there's a role for the educator, but there's a role for society writ large.
Right.
Look at our voting participation rates of young people. We've got to create greater skin in the game for young people, and I think if we can connect public policy issues facing the country, housing, affordability, jobs, foreign policy, in our place in the world, there's some big picture challenges, and young people have the greatest skin in the game. So we want to empower them, and in part, it comes down to making sure government looks like the people we represent. It's why I ran in the first place as a generational progressive conservative, because I thought that government, I was referring to the Wynne government respectively, did not reflect the values and aspirations of my generation. So my message for young people is you've got their skin in the game, and there's a lot of political parties across the spectrum that want you if you're prepared to do the work. But for my role as minister, it's to make sure educators have the knowledge they need to strengthen values. It could be the flag, it could be our anthem, it could be taking a moment to meaningfully provide Remembrance Day ceremonies so that we understand the concept of sacrifice and duty.
People across the country right now are saying, yes, I agree with that. But do the experts agree with you? Are you getting blowback from the experts? But you only have 10 seconds for that.
The answer generally for anything I do is yes, but that probably means I'm doing the right thing.
Mr. Lecce, it's a pleasure.
Thank
3
you.
minutes. This show provides independent analysis of the issues. We are not paid by the government. And as I am finding, so much business in Canada relies upon various governments that they don't want to sponsor or advertise on a show which may become controversial, which talks about liberty, freedoms, sometimes criticizes government. I've had guests on that support the government. But people are saying, you know what? We don't want to bite the hand that feeds us, i.e. government, which is why I hope you'll subscribe and contribute to keep this show on the air.